The hum of the Unity station's anti-gravity walkways was usually a soothing drone, but today it was accompanied by the discordant chatter of alien dignitaries. Ambassador Xyloth of the KRYLL Dominion, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the artificial sun, gestured dismissively at the colossal vessel before them. "Ah, the Terran War Remnants Museum," he clicked, his vocalizer emitting a wry, almost condescending tone. "Such quaint relics. This Dreadnought-class ironclad," he continued, pointing one of his many limbs at the imposing, angular ship, "is what, 1,000 cycles old. Its energy signatures are so crude, its weapon ports practically ornamental." Other alien envoys chuckled, their varied forms shaking with amusement. "Indeed," chimed Vlor of the Ilari, his bioluminescent form pulsing with gentle irony. "Beautiful exhibits, humans. A shame they no longer fly, as you say." Captain Eva Rostova, curator of the UEDF Museum fleet, offered only a tight-lipped smile and a slight bow. "They serve their purpose, Ambassador," she replied, her voice calm and even. The alien seemed satisfied with this enigmatic response, dismissing the dormant giants as harmless historical curiosities. For the last 500 cycles, the galaxy had enjoyed the Pax Galactica, an era of unprecedented peace enforced by strict military conventions. These conventions, forged in the crucible of devastating interspecies wars, meticulously regulated everything: weapon yields, targeting protocols, the use of autonomous combat systems, and even acceptable collateral damage. No longer could species deploy planetary-scale disruptors or self-replicating nanite swarms. Warfare had become a constrained, almost ritualized dance of limited engagements, prioritizing strategic objectives over total annihilation. Humanity, having survived its own brutal past, was a fervent signatory, contributing significantly to the ethical guidelines. What the galactic community failed to fully grasp was that while humanity adhered to these rules, they had once operated without them. And those older ways, those brutal, efficient, and utterly unrestricted ways, lay dormant in the vast, silent hulls of the museum fleet. The fragile peace was shattered by the Forlag Imperium. A hyper-aggressive, hive-minded species from the outer rim, the Forlag saw the Pax Galactica not as a framework for peace, but as a set of exploitable weaknesses. They studied every interspecies treaty, every weapon limitation, every ethical protocol. Their war designers crafted fleets perfectly optimized for the civilized warfare of the modern era. Their ships were fast, their energy weapons precise, their shields designed to absorb regulated payloads. They believed they understood the galactic battlefield perfectly, having calculated every possible maneuver, every counter. Their intelligence reports had even noted the Terran Museum ships, dismissing them as irrelevant. Primitives clinging to their ancestral barbarism, their grand strategist, Kthar, had sneered. They pose no threat. The Forlag struck first at Valerius, a verdant agri-world on the Coalition's border. The local defense fleet, adhering strictly to the Pax Galactica, found itself outmaneuvered and outgunned. The Forlag's coordinated assault, perfectly executed within the bounds of permissible force, crippled Valerius's planetary defenses without incinerating its surface. The message was clear. The Forlag intended to conquer, not destroy, but they would do so ruthlessly, exploiting every legal and ethical loophole. The Galactic Council scrambled, but their modern fleets, designed for precision strikes and limited engagements, were struggling against an enemy that embraced maximum force within the rules. With Valerius falling, Admiral Jianli of the UEDF stood before the exasperated Galactic Council. "Our modern fleets are constrained by the very rules we champion," he admitted, his face grim. "But we have another option. A controversial one. The Museum Fleet." Chancellor Vlor, his glow dimming with apprehension, questioned, "Admiral, those are ceremonial vessels. Their power cores are centuries old. Their weapons are obsolete." Li shook his head. "Obsolete to your rules, Chancellor. They were built before the Pax Galactica. Before the conventions. Before any of you decided what was too much. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. The museum ships were indeed relics, but not in the way the galaxy understood. They were testaments to a time when humanity fought for survival against itself, with no holds barred. The Ironclad, for instance, wasn't just old. Its heavy particle cannons fired plasma bolts with an unrefined, untargeted spread that would violate 17 current collateral damage treaties. Its disruptor mines emitted localized gravity distortions that could tear apart a small moon, an act expressly forbidden. The Vanguard, a stealth frigate, carried self-replicating drone swarms designed to dismantle enemy ships from the inside, consuming organic and inorganic matter alike, a Class 9 prohibited weapon. These ships had been meticulously decommissioned, but their systems were preserved, perfectly functional, waiting for a hypothetical, worst-case scenario. That scenario had just arrived. Captain Rostova, the curator, wasn't just a historian. She was a combat engineer and the last living expert on the Pre-Pax fleet. Under her command, the museum personnel, a mix of aging veterans, passionate historians, and brilliant young technicians, began the activation. Power cores, dormant for centuries, slowly hummed to life. Dust motes danced in the revitalized light of ancient consoles. The ship's AI, a primitive but ruthlessly efficient combat logic, awakened. Status: full battle readiness. Awaiting target parameters, droned the ironclad central computer, its voice cold and devoid of modern ethical subroutines. These machines knew only one directive: destroy the enemy, by any means necessary. The Galactic Council formally authorized the deployment of the museum ships, albeit with a nervous proviso, as temporary, static defense platforms to assist in humanitarian evacuations only. Lee merely nodded. He knew the truth: these ships, once deployed, would be anything but static. The Ironclad, the Vanguard, the Hammer of Soul, and a dozen others, broke free from their orbital moorings. Their ancient thrusters, inefficient by modern standards, flared with an almost defiant roar, echoing a bygone era of brute force. The Forelag, detecting the movement, scanned the signatures and dismissed them again. Energy output of a mining freighter, Kthars strategists reported. No threat. The Ironclad moved into position between the Forelag fleet and Valerius. Its targeting systems, slow but devastatingly accurate, locked onto the lead Forelag battleship. Target acquired. Firing solution optimal. Disregard collateral damage protocols, its AI queried Rostova. Disregard, she confirmed, her jaw set. The massive particle cannons, designed to crack open planetary shields, roared to life. Instead of the precise, regulated energy bolts of modern warfare, the Ironclad unleashed a torrent of uncontained, raw plasma. It spread wide, catching not just the target, but 2 escort frigates in a single, devastating blast. The Forelag shields, designed to absorb focused, clean energy, buckled and shattered under the sheer, brutal force. Kthars' psionic link screamed with alarm. What was that? That was not a regulated weapon. It violated every known energy signature protocol. His tactical officers stared, horrified. Their carefully constructed battle plans, optimized for predictable engagements, were useless. The Ironclad wasn't playing by the rules. It didn't care about their formations, their shield harmonics, or their tactical retreats. It simply wanted to destroy. And it was doing so with a terrifying, indiscriminate efficiency. As the Forelag struggled to comprehend the Ironclad's assault, the Vanguard, previously dismissed as a mere escort relic, launched its payload. Swarms of tiny, metallic insects, numbering in the millions, surged towards the nearest Forelag cruiser. These weren't missiles, these were self-replicating nanite drones, each no bigger than a grain of sand, designed to convert raw matter into more nanites. They swarmed the cruiser, ignoring shields, burrowing through hull plating, and consuming vital systems from the inside out. Within minutes, the cruiser, once a proud warship, became a shimmering cloud of dust and rapidly disintegrating components, a literal consumption that left nothing behind. The Kthar's horror was palpable. This was a weapon of total biological and mechanical eradication, strictly forbidden by galactic law. The Hammer of Soul, a heavy artillery platform disguised as an orbital defense station, unfurled its hidden payload. It didn't fire missiles, it launched massive, inert tungsten rods from orbit at near light speed. These were kinetic kill vehicles, designed to strike with the force of a small asteroid. They bypassed energy shields entirely, relying purely on momentum. One struck a four-lag frigate, puncturing it clean through, leaving a silent, perfectly cylindrical hole before the entire ship violently decompressed. Another hit a smaller Kthar support vessel, atomizing it instantly. The Kthar had no defense against weapons that operated outside the conventions of energy projection or conventional explosives. This was pure, unadulterated, physics-based obliteration. Grand Strategist Kthar's psionic field collapsed into a chaotic screech of terror and confusion. They are not fighting by the rules. They are not abiding by the conventions. They are using everything, he shrieked into the hive mind. His fleet was optimized to defeat a predictable enemy, an enemy bound by honor and ethics. But the museum ships were a phantom from a darker past, unfettered by such constraints. They didn't try to win, they tried to utterly dismantle. They didn't aim for vital systems, they aimed for everything, everywhere, all at once. The ironclad turned its attention to Kthar's flagship. Its AI, relentless, calculated optimal paths of destruction. Targeting bridge. Energy conduits. Primary weapon systems. All vulnerable to sustained, unregulated particle cascade, it droned. Rostova gave the order. The ancient dreadnought unleashed its full fury. Plasma, kinetic slugs, and a concentrated burst of unshielded gamma radiation, a forbidden weapon for its indiscriminate biological effect, slammed into the flagship. The four-lag vessel didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, collapsing into a pocket of superheated gas and scattered atoms. There was no wreckage, no trace. Just nothing. With Kthar's flagship annihilated, the psionic link of the four-lag Imperium shattered. The hive mind, dependent on its central nodes, disintegrated into individual, confused, and terrified minds. Without direction, without their strategic nexus, the remaining four-lag fleet descended into disarray, then panic. They didn't retreat, they simply fled in every conceivable direction, a broken, terrified scattering of individuals who had lost their collective purpose. The invasion was over. Not with a victory, but with an utter, existential dismantling. The aftermath was a chilling silence across the galaxy. The communication channels that had once mocked humanity's relics were now filled with stunned reports. Valerius was safe, but the cost was profound. The environmental readings from the battle zone were horrifying: localized temporal distortions from gravity mines, residual radiation from gamma bursts, and vast clouds of self-replicating nanites slowly consuming space debris. The humans had won, but they had left behind a mess that would take centuries to clean up. They had proven their point, but at a price that underscored exactly why the Pax Galactica existed. Chancellor Vlor, his bioluminescence now almost imperceptible, addressed the council. We banned humanity from war because they brought extinction. They have proven today that even without breaking a single current law, they can still achieve the same result. The irony is excruciating. The other species, once dismissive, now looked at humanity with a new, profound fear. It wasn't just their capability, it was their willingness to unleash such devastating, indiscriminate power when provoked, even if it meant using old weapons. Back on Unity Station, the museum ships were carefully guided back to their moorings. Captain Rostova walked through the ironclad's massive command deck. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and spent energy. She touched a still-warm console. Decommissioned again, she murmured. Admiral Lee joined her. They won't be laughing now, Eva. They'll be terrified. And for once, that might be a good thing. The museum fleet now stood not as a collection of quaint relics, but as a chilling reminder of humanity's past, a silent threat that the galaxy hoped would never be fully unleashed again. The Terran War Remnants Museum reopened to the public. But a new plaque had been installed at the entrance to the exhibit featuring the Ironclad. It was simple, stark, and utterly devoid of irony. These vessels represent a bygone era. They were constructed before the Pax Galactica, before the galactic conventions that limit the scope and brutality of interstellar conflict. Their methods are now universally forbidden. They stand as a testament to the destructive potential that necessitates these rules, and as a stark reminder of why some weapons, once forged, must forever remain dormant. May they never fly again in anger. The tour groups still came, but the atmosphere had changed. There were no more jokes about rusting buckets or fancy decorations. Now, visitors from all corners of the galaxy walked the halls of the Ironclad in a heavy, reverent silence. They looked at the massive, unpolished cannons and the jagged hull with a mixture of awe and primal fear. Ambassador HFY returned once more, standing silently before the ship he had once mocked. He didn't click his mandibles or make witty remarks. He simply stared at the cold steel. Captain Rostova found him there and asked if he had any more questions. The ambassador shook his head slowly. "I finally understand, Captain," he whispered. "You don't keep these ships to remember your glory. You keep them to remember your monsters. And to remind us that the monster is still there, sleeping, waiting for the rules to fail." Humanity remained a peaceful member of the Council, but the lesson was learned. The museum wasn't a graveyard of the past, it was a cage for the storm.